Stand in solidarity with the Tampa Five, who were brutalized, arrested, and slapped with unfounded charges by campus police for standing up against the racist attacks on education by Governor and Presidential hopeful Ron DeSantis in Florida. Because we all know that it will take solidarity among all of us who have experienced violence on a multitude of levels by the carceral system, and an understanding that if we are all not free, that none of us are free, to get to a place of true liberation. The unconscionable brutality that Gia, who was here with us, one of the Tampa Five, had faced, as well as the trumped-up charges used to further punish and make an example of her simply because she dared to engage in her constitutional right to peacefully protest Governor Ron DeSantis' violent determination to wipe Black, brown, LGBTQ+ folks and other marginalized communities from our tax-funded educational system in an attempt to rewrite history is yet another reason why solidarity is paramount to liberation. Because we see how across cultures, across religions, across regions, across identities, and across lived experiences, that they aim to violently oppress all of us in order to uphold and further their sexist, transphobic, homophobic, racist, and xenophobic agendas. Here in Seattle, we have faced police brutality, the same of which the Tampa Five were subjected to, as well as the obstruction by elected officials, such as the Mayor of Seattle and the Office of Police Accountability, of a program meant to center and be led by victims of police violence, the Affected Persons Program. A program meant to offer resources to victims of police brutality, such as attorney and PI fees, mental health resources, funeral and burial fees, assistance navigating often re-traumatizing bureaucracies, and more, to a community often overlooked or worse, fed further into the system, while millions continue to be poured into the defense and justification of police brutality and murder. My family, who was silenced by institutions in Seattle, created to be inclusive of marginalized communities, however shamelessly aligned with police interests, immediately after my brother was murdered, and the Tampa Five, who faced additional persecution and silencing by leaders within the University of South Florida, illuminate the important reality that these institutions would not be the ones who free us from state-sanctioned violence. That on the contrary, they will utter the same lies that the police paint to wipe their hands clean of the blood stain by their brutality. We know that it will take unbreakable solidarity with one another in order to create a time where police brutality, institutional complacency, and militarized violence sanctioned by the state is a thing of the past. It will take determination and an overwhelming rejection of repression, that of which we are seeing now in the streets for a liberated Palestine whose genocidal colonizers train police forces here in the U.S. to brutalize and murder us. It will take the courage of countless Davilas, countless Tampa Fives, and all of us who stand with them. Thank you for your bravery, Gia. We are all here to listen, understand, and support you by any means necessary. So without further ado, Gia Davila.
I think that's like the best introduction I will ever receive. Thank you so much. That was amazing. So yeah, I'll just get into it. So my name is Gia Davila. Oh, actually, wait, hold on. I'm gonna do a chant. So just repeat after me. Protesting is not a crime.
Protesting is not a crime.
Drop the charges now.
Drop the charges now.
Protesting is not a crime.
Protesting is not a crime.
Drop the charges now.
Drop the charges now.
Protesting is not a crime.
Protesting is not a crime.
Justice for the Tampa Five.
Justice for the Tampa Five.
Okay, thank you. So yeah, my name is Gia Davila. I'm one of the Tampa Five and also a very proud member of Tampa Bay SDS. STS is a great student org. PSU is affiliated with them. You might have heard more about them. But yeah, so I'll just get right into it. So the Tampa 5 were 5 protesters who were arrested at the University of South Florida. We were beaten by USFPD and brutalized for simply protesting for diversity programs at our school. In recent months, within the past year, Ron DeSantis, the governor of Florida, has cut and rolled back almost every single thing that the people in Florida and across the nation have fought for and won from the 60s to today. He has attacked verbally and through legislation LGBTQ people. He has attacked immigrants to the point that it's not even allowing people to work and get jobs, which is bullshit. He has removed African American history from schools and just completely attacked higher education in general. So as students, we obviously have been taking a stand against DeSantis for quite some time through all of the passing of all of these bills, including so things kind of started to heat up at our university when earlier this year DeSantis did this probe into trans students' medical health care that they were receiving, which is an insane violation of people's medical rights. It's insane, and students saw that he was doing this. They saw what was going on, and he was requesting this information all across Florida because he wants to attack trans students. He wants to repeal the things that allow students to receive medical care at their universities, the universities that we pay to attend. So students at our university stood up, students across the state of Florida stood up and said, no, we will not stand quietly while this man looks into people's health care. And we had walkouts, we had demonstrations at our school, and yet our university president refused to listen to students. She refused to refuse DeSantis's probing into students. And so, we found this despicable when she turned over students' healthcare information. And then, right after this, because all of this legislation passed in such quick succession, we saw that this bill, HB 999, was passing through the House. Basically, it's a bill that attacks higher education as a whole, but more specifically, diversity. It also attacks the tenure of faculty, removing a lot of their job security. And in addition to that, it also attacked multicultural studies. It attacked multicultural organizations. That means groups like BSU would be affected by this. Historically Black fraternities and sororities would be affected by this. It's a disgusting bill. And so many of these things we fought for so long to gain. Just to watch it be repealed in front of you, just despite students standing up against it, is disgusting. And it's so undemocratic. But, so we found this to be terrible. We said, we are not going to stand for this. We saw how our university president refused to listen to students when it came to trans students. And we said, we're tired of this. We're not going to sit here quietly while you continue to attack students. Because her silence is an act of violence against students. But anyways, so yeah, we said, we're gonna hold a protest and we're going to march to her office and we're gonna demand a meeting with her. We wanted her to come out with a firm commitment that she would not repeal diversity programs at our university and that she would take an open stance against DeSantis and stand up for students. And so we did just that. We held a really great protest on our campus and we marched over, loudly chanting, holding banners. It was an awesome event. And we walked into the lobby of this building on campus, the Patel Center, that her office is on the 4th floor of. And after 2 minutes of, not even like 2 minutes of being in there, the police started attacking students. It was, you know, like, really, it was really, really terrible. And extremely scary. Like, the University of South Florida Police, shame on them for attacking students. Our tuition pays their paycheck. They're supposed to be defending students, and look at what they did. It's disgusting. Without warning, they started grabbing and attacking students. I was grabbed from behind. I didn't even know what was going on. And it was extremely, extremely brutal. So yeah, and then four of us that day were arrested and brutalized by USFPD. Countless other students were also brutalized and not arrested, but they ended up eventually taking us into cop cars, and where we sat they took us to a secondary location on campus where we sat for 3 hours while they debated what to charge us with. It's insane. It's such like a clear act of political repression to be attacked, brutalized, and arrested just for protesting on campus. So, so after that, we were taken to jail, obviously, and where we sat for a couple hours, and it was actually really amazing. A small highlight was that our release was actually expedited because of the amount of people who were calling into the jail and telling them that it's not okay to arrest protesters. So we were able to make it out within the same night, which was really great. So yeah, since then, the next day I found out, upon going to the police station to pick up the stuff that they had taken from me, that they threatened me again. After the whole thing, they threatened me again, saying that if I am to return to campus, they will arrest me again. When I had like literally called them to let them know I was coming and everything. And so basically we found out that we had been banned from campus. And at this time I was a student on campus, and so was one of the other people who was arrested. I was in the last semester of my degree, and being banned from campus, it was really, demeaning, demoralizing. They quite literally released an email, or sent us an email that called us like public security threats, which was really devastating to be treated by the university that I paid to go to in this manner after putting so much time and effort and organizing on campus to make it a better place for students. To be labeled as a security threat was really offensive. So yeah, we were banned from campus, and Chrisley Carpio, who was actually a staff member at the time at the University of South Florida, was put on administrative leave, which is basically what they do when they want to fire you and they have no real reason to fire you, and they're just waiting until they can. So, because she had actually never been written up in 7 years of working for the university. But because of her, they found her support of students so egregious that, that they would fire her over it instead of actually taking a stand themselves and standing up for students. So after that, we went into a bunch of code of conduct hearings and stuff where they interrogated us on open legal matters. And it was just a really egregious way that the school was able to kind of make the decision of whether or not I was going to be able to finish my degree, which was terrible. They also, about 30 days after the original arrest happened, they added a fifth person, Lauren Pinero, to the whole case, making us the Tampa 5, because originally it was the 4. After that, the university came out with this, so this whole time they were being really quiet. One time so during the code of conduct stuff, it was the faculty and then a couple of your peers who are making the decisions whether or not you're going to be expelled. And in like a faculty and staff meeting, the University of South Florida President Ray Law compared us to school shooters. So it was like they were literally going to every extent to demonize us, vilify us, and it was just so egregious because like that's a disgusting thing to say or comparison to make. But yeah, so sorry. So yeah, after that, the school came out with this. The whole time they were like, "Oh, we're doing an investigation into the situation," and we're refusing to make a comment. And as soon as they finished this, like, quote, investigation, the school came out and said in this like long report that the University of South Florida Police Department had done nothing wrong, and that everything that they had done was according to their training, which is insane because they don't even have crowd control training. Like, it's like crazy. But and they also they put students into chokeholds. I was groped by the chief of police. Like, how dare you say that these things are according to the police training? It's bullshit. Excuse my language. But so yeah, after that, we heard from our lawyer that there was this like potential pre-file intervention, which is basically before they file charges against you, which actually takes like quite some time. If you like agree to certain terms, they'll not charge you with these charges. So we basically we were like, okay, so what are the conditions? And the conditions were a written letter of guilt, admission of guilt, saying that we brutalized USFPD, and to apologize to the individual cops who said we brutalized them. Wow. That would mean I would have to apologize to the cop who groped me while arresting me. No, yeah, we were like, we're not doing that. And it was during the code of conduct stuff, actually. So we were like, okay, well, if we admit guilt, like, what's going to stop them from expelling us? Like, it was a very bad option for us. But so we all decided, like, we're not going to apologize for this. Student activists shouldn't ever have to apologize for protesting on campus. And as soon as we said no to that, or like decided not to look into it further, they tripled the felony charges on 3 of us. So, yeah, sorry, basically the charges were felony battery on a law enforcement officer, misdemeanor of peacefully resisting arrest, and another misdemeanor of disrupting a school or campus event. And the felonies carry 5 years in prison. These are very serious charges. So for them to double the felony counts on 3 of us, when there's ample video footage of everything that happened that day, these charges are completely fabricated against us, and it's very clear. Despite that, they doubled the felony counts, making it 10 years for 3 of us. And since have been continuing to double down on us. As soon as they released the report, Chrisley was fired from her job. Yeah, it was just like really disgusting to see the university act in this way to somebody who's worked there for so long. But despite, all of these things, all of this repression, we were able to put on a conference in Tampa where people flew in from across the country, and also we had like a lot of local people as well. And it ended up being like 130 people. It was a really cool day. And we, through this, were able to establish the Committee to Defend the Tampa 5, which is basically like an organization made up of a lot of other organizations where we're able to organize all together to get the charges dropped, which is very lovely. Sorry. I'm like really nervous. Yeah, so right now, understanding that we are completely innocent of these charges. We did nothing wrong. We should not have to apologize for protesting on our campus. And if that means going to trial to prove our innocence, to prove that protesting is not a crime, then we're going to do it. So we have a pre-trial date on December 5th, and then our official trial starts December 12th. Yeah, so in the meantime, we're working on raising the national profile of our case. We're trying to rally people against DeSantis because, like, for many reasons, but our case obviously is something that's going on in Florida, but it's seriously something that everyone across the nation should pay attention to because it sets like a really important precedent for how student activists are treated in all states. In addition to this, like I said, we're trying to rally people against DeSantis because you know, him being governor is not just a Florida problem. I mean, his like little reign of terror that he's been going on has spewed out into many other states, from copycat bills to just people like picking up legislation. It's really disgusting. A lot of stuff lately has been seeming to start in Florida and Texas and then quickly move across the country. Yeah, and he's running for president, so that's clearly a national issue. So yeah, I guess that's pretty much all from me, other than if you feel so inclined, if you're part of an organization, we are trying to get organizations to pass resolutions to defend the Tampa 5 with like whatever org you're coming from, specifically like unions and stuff. That's really cool, and then like mail it in. And also signing the petition. It's like peoplespetition.org/Tampa5. And also attending any local protests that will be happening on the first day of our trial, which would be December 12th. So, yeah.
Could we please get a round of applause for Gia? If you guys don't know, their bail cost them $15,000, $3,000 for each of them individually, and luckily they were able to pay that off, but they still have to raise funds for their legal defense as well as putting together the speaking tour. So if you all can, please pull your phone, and I'm just going to tell you the Venmo and the Cash App right now. And I encourage you to just chip in whatever you can. If it's $5, $20, it's okay. But we're just asking that people make this contribution. So for Venmo, the Venmo is Tampa 5 with a capital T.
Is it number 5 or 5 spelled out?
5, the number 5. I don't know why I said 5. The number 5. And then for the Cash App, it's going to be Tampa Bay SDS, capital T, capital B, capital SDS. So, like, feel free to ask later if you missed it right now, but I recommend that you all do so. Further, the organizations that help put this speaking tour together across the Pacific Northwest are the Freedom Road Socialist Organization, the Seattle Alliance Against Racist and Political Repression, and the Progressive Student Union. So if you're interested in finding out more about these organizations, especially PSU, please meet us in the back. Thank you. Oh, and also it's now time for Q&A. So if you have a question or you want to say anything, please come up to the mic.
Question, just a straight clarifying question. You mentioned a few abbreviations. You mentioned a few. I'll just figure it out. You mentioned a few abbreviations. What is SDS? What is BSU?
Oh, okay, sure. So, yeah, SDS, sorry, I forget, it's BSU here. But SDS is Students for a Democratic Society. We're a national student organization. And we're like a campaign-based group, so we work nationally but have chapters all across the country. It's like one of the most active militant student groups, so we're proud to be part of it. But yeah, so SDS chapters work on a range of issues, from getting like period supplies on campus, increasing Black enrollment, which is what Tampa Bay SDS was working on before the bill HB 999 was passed, before the Tampa 5 stuff. And yeah, a variety of issues. If you're interested, you can always come talk to me after this. There are certain universities that are very outspoken in their support of DeSantis. I don't know.
Second question would be, in addition to the events that you pitched there, what do you feel that organizations based out of here can really do? Because unfortunately for us, your trial is a state trial all the way across the country. We have very little direct influence there. So aside from making our voices heard and donating, which my organization, Seattle Green just donated $20, we love you. How do you feel that we can help going forward, like after the trial date?
Yeah, I think having organizations like sign on in support is really helpful, and submitting letters in support is really helpful. And yeah, I mean, it is hard, but having protests in your own city is like, actually like, might not feel as impactful from here, but seeing the amount of national support that we've gotten is so moving. I mean, and it really does make a difference. Like, if it weren't for the call-in, the national call-in that we had with people constantly calling into the jail, like, we would have spent the night in jail. And so it's like, you know, this stuff can seem small from where you're coming from, but to us,
while you were talking, you said, I think like someone in your school's silence was violence. I was wondering if you could expand on that statement.
yeah, so in all of these dealings with our university president, she was pretty much silent, except for when she said some really horrible stuff later on, but for a long time she was silent when it came to student issues. And these are issues between like Ron DeSantis wanting information about trans student healthcare to bills that attack diversity programs. Those are things that materially harm students. That could mean like trans students being very wary about continuing receiving healthcare from the university or the university facilities. As far as diversity, equity, and inclusion, as well as multicultural clubs, multicultural groups, but also multicultural studies, I mean, I feel like that also really materially harms students when those things are taken away. That takes opportunities away from students, and it removes the opportunity for students to learn about their own culture, and to be with students who are like them, which I find extremely egregious. Like, everyone should be able to have the opportunity to learn, especially you're going to college, you're paying for this degree, like, why can't you study your own history? So, I mean, yeah, I think that's kind of what I meant.
What? Why are you looking at me?
Why did you stand up?
Well, I had a question. I don't want to. I can ask later. Anybody else want to go?
Okay, this is gonna be such a fucking like, what do you call it when you give someone something? Just like easy question. Softball. Okay. What is the coalition to march on the RNC, and why is it important to students, especially Students for Democratic Society?
Okay, I should have brought up the March on the RNC, sorry. So the Coalition to March on the RNC is a coalition of groups who are marching on the RNC. The RNC is a Republican, national convention, right?
Fuck that.
Yeah. Okay, sorry. I'm really tired right now. But it's really important to be marching against them because look at what Ron DeSantis has done in Florida. Look at what Greg Abbott has done in Texas. It's things we've seen all across the country. And it goes against like the very fabric of the people who make up the United States. I mean, for example, in Florida, the people in Florida are not hateful people. It's Ron DeSantis who wants to push through hateful and racist legislation. So we feel like it's extremely important to endorse and go to the RNC and march against it because we do not support the Republicans. So, yeah.
Hey, so this might be a stupid question, but all the things that you mentioned happened to you, getting assaulted and getting groped by the cops, I know, you might be going to trial for what they're charging you with, but is it like possible to sue the Florida Police Department? It's like, it's not like I have the most faith in the justice system, but it seems like that's something that should be happening. Is there, stuff happening to maybe try to make that happen?
Yeah, so it's a good question. So our main concerns right now are about, the legal charges that we're fighting against. But despite that, I don't know. We'll see. I can't really talk about it yet. Sorry.
I got a fun one.
Have you gotten any satisfaction watching Ron DeSantis' presidential campaign crash and burn?
Only a little.
I was wondering if you could talk a little bit more about the campaigns that SDS has run on campus and what things you're doing in student work before this all happened.
Yeah, sure. So, before the arrest, we had been working for quite some time on a campaign to increase Black enrollment at our school. I kind of touched on it a little bit before, but it is like a really important campaign that SDS has taken up in a bunch of different places. And the Black enrollment at our university was extremely disproportionately low to the Black population in Tampa. And we thought this was like a real issue at our university because the University of South Florida kind of postures itself to be this really diverse campus that's like accessible to all students, but clearly when you look at the student body, that's not the case. So yeah, we were working to increase Black enrollment. Before that, we had been working on campaigns. We worked on like a bunch of different issues, some to like divest. We were working on a divestment campaign, and also to demilitarize USFPD. So yeah.
Recently, Ron DeSantis made a comment on students in America with work visas, saying that they should be deported if they speak out against what's going on in Israel right now, or if they are pro-Palestinian in any way. Could you comment on that?
Yes, I can. That is so disgusting. I mean, the legislation that he has passed in Florida, the anti-immigrant legislation in a state that is so, there are so many immigrants in Florida, so much diversity, and all DeSantis wants to do is tear that down. He refuses to listen to anyone's beliefs who are not his, and calling for people to be deported is disgusting. He should apologize for all of his crimes.
What do you think the path is for the left to regain some power in a place like Florida?
Oh, that's a good question. Yeah, I mean, by organizing, I think. I think groups like SDS are able to really effectively do that. Like I said before, Florida is not a hateful place. It's actually full of people who, get along pretty well with each other, despite coming from different backgrounds. And so I think, Republicans like Ron DeSantis, they are doomed to fail. because they're not with the people, and the people will eventually win because we make up the majority. So. Yeah, it's the.
I got it. Hold on.
It's like the People's Petition / Tampa 5. Oh, what is that not it?
Sorry, I'm just.
That's it.
There's actually a website. How about that? Defendthetampa5.org.
Yeah, there's like a bunch of resources there listed. Sorry.
Yeah, it is peoplespetition.org.
I really should know it by now.
No, you're right. You're right. It's Tampa 5.
Okay.